This has nothing to do with Spider-Man. Okay, everybody, I really want to dig down deep and find something that maybe everybody hasn't seen before. So I went and got back in touch with a movie I saw in the theaters back in 1981. We're talking about Venom. We'll get to the whole point. We'll get to what this thing is about. But before we go any further, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
Venom. The kidnap that became a murder, that became a siege, that became a death trap. Venom. The fear explodes, trapping both hostages and kidnappers in its grip. The panic spreads, sending an entire police force into action. But this is a terror unlike anything anyone has ever faced. And when it uncoils to strike, your blood will run cold. Venom.
Well, could you tell me just how dangerous, very dangerous is?
The most dangerous snake in the whole world. That dangerous.
The snake is loose!
You'll have to turn over now. I'm not going to hurt you.
Oh, geez, Samson, come on! Watch out!
Whatever you feel, you will fear. Venom.
Okay, this motion picture was directed by Piers, Haggard. Okay, not a name you're going to know. It is what it is. Let's get rolling. We're talking about he did little things like The Blood on Satan's Claw and A Summer Story. But really, he was a TV guy. Centerpoint, Screen 2, Return to Treasure Island, Quartermass, Against the Crowd, The Love School, Armchair Theater, Public Eye, The Newcomers. So, if you're watching a lot of TV, especially across the pond over in Marion, England, then you will have known of this guy. If not, no. Okay, playing Müller, the one and only Klaus Kinski. Of course, he was in stuff like Nosferatu the Vampire. He was in Crawl Space, and Creature, and Operation Thunderbolt, and Footprints on the Moon, and The Devil's Garden, and Dr. Zhivago, and For a Few Dollars More, and The Night of the Assassin, and Jack the Ripper, and more importantly, he gave us Natasha Kinski. How can you knock that? Playing Dave, Oliver Reed. It's going to be good. Of course, he was in Tommy. He was in stuff like The Three Musketeers, and The Big Sleep, and The Sting 2, and The Brood, and The Lion of the Desert, and Castaway, and Gladiator, and The House of Usher, and The Big Sleep. And of course, he was in a motion picture that I already reviewed, Burnt Offerings. So, cool career, did a lot of cool stuff. Maybe the guy hit the bottom a little bit much, but it did make a difference. He was in a lot of great shit, and that's all you need to know. Playing Mr. Anderson, Sterling Hayden. Oh my God, don't get to talk about this guy enough. Of course, he was in The Godfather. He was in The Long Goodbye, and 9 to 5, and King of the Gypsies, and Hard Contact, and The Asphalt Jungle, and Crime Wave, and Johnny Guitar, and The Last Command, and Crime of Passion. So, old schooler actor, been around way back in the day, was in a bunch of cool shit. Is what it is. Playing Dr. Marion Stowe, Sarah Miles. Never get to talk about her that much either. Let's do this thing by the numbers. She was in little motion pictures like Hope and Glory, and White Mischief, and The Big Sleep, and Days of Grace, and Ryan's Daughter, and Blow Up. And of course, she was in a motion picture. For some reason, I always knew her the most from The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. I don't know why she always pops in my head for that one, but that's the one she pops in my head for. It was actually an okay flick. Anyway, it is what it is. Let's keep moving. Playing Commander Bulloch, Nicol, Williamson. Might jump out at you. Might not, but there was one movie I'll always remember for. Anyway, let's go. We're talking about he was in little motion pictures like The 7% Solution, and Hamlet, and the Willoughby Conspiracy, and Robin and Marion, and the Human Factor, and Return to Oz, and he was in The Exorcist 3, and he was on like TV in Christopher Columbus, but I'll always remember him for being Merlin in Excalibur. Man, that was like a big thing when that thing came to HBO back in the day, Excalibur. And he was, whatever, that's where I remember him from. And of course playing Louise Andrews, the one and only Susan George, who you know I've talked about before in other motion pictures, but let's get rolling. She's been in little teeny gems like Fright and Die Screaming Marianne and Out of Season and Mandingo and Enter the Ninja and The House Where Evil Dwells. Jesus, does anybody even remember that? And on TV, you know, EastEnders and Stay Lucky and The Castle Adventure. But for me, the low EV2 motion picture she jumps out at me for, of course, The Amazing Straw Dogs. It is what it is. And I've already reviewed it, because you know I love it. We're talking about Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. Take that shit. And there's also some other faces that pop up in this little thing. I mean, we're talking about like Rita Webb, who I will always remember from Benny Hill. Man, I used to love the Benny Hill show. And we're talking about John Forbes-Robertson. He was in Life Force. And other people in this flick also pop up in Life Force, by the way. You know, Cornelia Sharpe, who was in Serpico. And Michael Gough, who was in Batman. So, I'm talking the Batman from the 80s. So, there's a bunch of faces in this thing that you're going to see. You're going to remember. You're going to be like, hey, I remember them. They might not have the biggest roles, but they're in this flick. Okay, everybody, I'm going to do this in 90 seconds or less. I'm really going to keep this to 90 seconds or less so I can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving so we can get to where we'd much rather be. The summation. Why did I sing that? I don't know. You have this woman. She's going on a trip to meet up with her husband. And she's a little bit nervous because she's leaving her son behind. Her son who has severe asthma, but really has a thing for reptiles. Hey, what do you know? And behind, she's leaving this kid with her daddy, who was like this big-time wildlife photographer, used to travel the world, is what it is. And, of course, the housekeeper and the driver. Well, it turns out the housekeeper and the driver got a little bit of a plan. See, there's going to be some kidnapping going on. They're going to take that kid, they're going to hold him for ransom, and they're going to, I don't know, extort money from this rich, powerful couple. Well, they bring in another guy to help them out with the plan. This guy, Müller. Ooh, he's a terrorist. This is goddamn Klaus Kinski himself. And they start to go off on their little plan. Well, the mother leaves, the kid's at home with the grandpa, everything is marching along, but Grandpa sends the boy off one day. Ooh, that kind of screws up the plans, and the boy goes to the pet store to get his little meaningless, harmless house snake. Except the pet store screws this whole thing up and gives him a black mamba, the most dangerous snake in all of the world. So they get the snake back to the place, the kid comes back home, is what it is, and then the kidnapping plot starts to unfold. But in the middle of everything, one of the kidnappers, Susan George, gets bit in the face, the boob, a couple times, whatever the hell's going on to her, I don't know. Anyway, she falls down dead. Before you know it, a cop shows up because a doctor at the zoo said, I think they got the packages mixed up. You better go check on this. He gets blasted with a double-barrel shotgun, and then it turns into basically a hostage situation. And that's the whole rest of the movie, a hostage situation with a snake that escaped. You know, we already know he killed that girl. And is running around, jumping out of the walls sometimes, biting and killing people. That's basically the motion picture, everybody. It's a hostage movie with a run-around snake in the middle of it. There you go. Okay, everybody. Does Venom work? Well, kind of. It's not a bad movie. It's kind of fun to watch. But you know they missed the mark, and there's some really bad sins in this thing. We'll get there. Let's just get the big three out of the way right off the get-go. The directing? Yeah, it's fairly pedestrian. It is what it is. I mean, a lot of it is almost TV movie feeling. It's not bad. The only time it gets really bad is whenever the snake is involved, and you see the people reacting to the snake, or you see things from the snake's point of view. Then it really looks like utter shit. This movie was actually started to be directed by Tobe Hooper, and he got kicked off the film. I don't know what happened, and they brought Piers in. It is what it is. Looks the way it looks. Does have a 70s, early 80s vibe feel to it. The color palette, the film, whatever they were using. It has that era where it would remind you of the time, but it's just very bland. The writing, It is what it is. The writing's not great. The writing's not bad. I mean, it's not stellar, but it's not other shit. It just is what it is. Kind of pedestrian. Kind of like the directing. And the acting. The acting's actually pretty good in this motion picture. Oliver Reed is awesome in it. Sterling Hayden, hey, does a great job. Everybody nails it. Even Kinski, he's at his Kinski best. The only thing that kind of feels a little off is the child actor. He's a little bit like, he's all right. But it is what it is. He's a child actor, and it just kind of shows. So the acting is actually probably a little bit better than you think it should be in this motion picture. All right, let's get back on track and talk about this motion picture and what it is, what it isn't, and why it did the things it did. You almost feel like this motion picture didn't know what it wanted to be. I mean, it really feels like the biggest mistake of this motion picture was having the snake in it, which is basically why they named it this. And basically, the marketing campaign behind it was, ooh, the snake, a monster movie. But it's not. They could have taken the snake out of this motion picture, and it would have made no difference except for probably making it better. Really what you have is a motion picture that, for all intents and purposes, is kind of like Dog Day Afternoon. This is like Dog Day Afternoon with a snake. Couple people plan on doing this heist, plan on making some money, it goes into shit, and then there's a hostage negotiation through the whole rest of the motion picture. Dog Day Afternoon. Except that it's different because there's a snake running around it. I mean, other than that, it is what it is. And there's some other really annoying things in this motion picture, like the soundtrack is just utterly unbearable because it's so loud and so smashed into your face in parts where it doesn't even need to be. It's just annoying. I wouldn't even call it the best soundtrack I ever heard. But it's just used inappropriately from beginning to end. It's like at the worst moments you hear this shit barreling in at you and you're like, God damn, somebody take the volume knob down at least. Throw into the fact that I swear a lot of the audio in this motion picture just sounds off. Like sometimes it just sounds really dubbed, and then sometimes like it just sounds off. Like where the levels just sound off. I don't know who mixed it or who did what, but I know it's a weird thing to comment on. But again, when you watch the motion picture, sometimes it'll be distracting when you're listening to it. And you're just like, who the hell was sitting behind the mixing desk on this thing? Because it just sounds weirdly mixed and weirdly produced. And I know this was a motion picture that was based on a book. But honestly, if you didn't know that it came from a book, you would have thought that they just made a movie about a Dog Day Afternoon type of situation, about a kidnapping going wrong, about a hostage situation, and then somebody at the end just said, hey, we got to jump on the snake craze that's going on right now, and just interject a snake into this motion picture. Because really, you could have written it out, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Even the Sarah Miles character, who came from the zoo, and was supposed to have the antidote on her to get into the house with everybody, you could have just said that, hey, she was an asthma doctor that they had to bring into this situation. And her character could have been part of this, mixed in, the snake could have been taken out, and it wouldn't have just upset anything. It wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have made a difference. And you could have gotten rid of the worst, weakest element of this motion picture, the snake. And you know me, I hate to ever give away the ending of a motion picture. I really do. I always want everybody to find it for themselves, but and here I got to kind of allude to it, because the ending of this motion picture is utterly ridiculous. I'm just going to say the scene with Klaus Kinski and the snake is just god-awfully dumb. Didn't even need to be there. It didn't even need to take place, especially because the cops kind of finished the job. It was just like weird and drawn out, and you see him spinning in circles with a rubber snake and falling into... It's just the most dumb shit I've ever seen. And just about any scene in this motion picture where the snake is involved, it's really, really dumb. You go from a movie, you're like, okay, this is a fairly taut, fairly well done thriller, to a stupid, bad-looking, silly snake running through the vents of the house, attacking people type of shit flick. I can't say it enough. I don't know why they did it. Now, this motion picture, as I alluded to earlier, had a lot of problems going on during it. I mean, they fired Tobe Hooper, which, I mean, I don't know what the hell happened there, but Tobe Hooper, you would think, like, really? They fired that guy? Most of the people actually wound up working for him in another movie called Life Force, where, like, some of the cast and the crew from this went over to make that with him. So I don't know what was the problem on this thing, but this movie had issues. We're talking about there was constant fighting between Klaus Kinski and Oliver Reed. Klaus was not an easy guy to deal with in this motion picture. They said Reed wasn't really, but at least he came across as jokingly and fairly warm. But Klaus Kinski was just a horror show. He fought with Reed. Sarah Miles had problems with him. It was just a shit show. And the director actually said the nicest person to deal with when he was making that motion picture was actually the snake, because all the people were just a pain in his ass. Take that for what it's worth. Now, in the end, when all is said and done, am I still going to recommend this motion picture to you? In a way, yeah, because there's parts of it that suck, there's parts of it that are cheesy, there's parts of it that are dumb. But as a whole, if you're watching it just to kill some time one night, and just to have a couple hours of mindless entertainment while you're falling asleep, no, this is not a movie if you were paying $15 for. Would I say go see it? I would say, shit, no. This is not a motion picture I'm like, oh my God, get 20 of your friends together, you gotta watch this. No, but you're laying on the couch one night, laying in bed one night, you ain't really got nothing else to do, you ain't really got nothing else to watch, then take Venom, look for it, it's on the streaming services, check it out. It's something good to nod off to, something good to check out if you got an hour and a half to kill and you're just like, ah, shit, if I'm entertained, I'm entertained, if I'm not, I'm not. The marketing was all wrong for this. They really marketed it more as a snake, horror flick, other than a standoff hostage situation drama flick, which is what they really should have just left it and should have presented it to you in the first place. All right, everybody, be good, take care, stay out of trouble, be good to a friend, be kind to a stranger, and above all else, no matter what, never, and I mean never, at any time, take any bullshit from anybody. See you soon.